Good evening. Today I'm talking to Ross Greenwood. Hello. Finally, we get to speak.
Yeah,
Do you want to
hope it
introduce
lasts a while.
Indeed. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Ross. I'm 47. I'm married. You might be here, my children at various points. I've done loads of jobs. Worked at Tesco's, McDonald's when I was younger. Been a financial advisor, stockbroker. I eventually did a lot of call centre work, management, that sort of thing. Worked for various bookmakers, and then randomly worked at the prison office for 4 years, just do something interesting. And then had an idea for a book that I started ages ago, and then obviously working in the prison gave me lots of ideas. So that I left the prison service in about 2015, and just kind of been writing since. A bit of house husbandry, which I'm not very good at, but the books are kind of getting going a bit now, so that's kind of helping. But it's hard to juggle them both.
Did you always want to be a writer?
No, not at all. I've always been a massive reader, even since I was like, as soon as I learned to read. I always liked eating sweets and reading, which it's kind of continued, so it's not been great for my weight. But reading and doing something else at the same time has been good, and I guess something just started bubbling away. I had an idea for a story about 4 lads growing up in Peterborough, but I couldn't think of anything, an edge to it or anything like that. So I wrote 50 pages and just slung it in a drawer. And then after I worked in the prison, I was like, I can make them, varying forms of criminals. And I knew that I was going to leave the prison 6 months before I left. And so for those last 6 months, I was working in resettlement, trying to rehouse people. I was opening bank accounts from when they left. And I used to grill them about, their motivations, their understanding, their reasons why they were criminals, and unfortunately, there wasn't loads of really good stuff. A lot of it was just silly crap, a lot of drunkenness, basically. But there was a few good things, and there was a few recurring themes, which I guess a lot of people know about, growing up and lack of parents and, or poor parents, that sort of thing. So a lot of these problems started when they were very young. So I guess that's going to be kind of a recurring theme in my book, is about villain and victim and villain. Some people have had such a bad childhood that they kind of become almost programmed, and then it's hard to get out of that cycle, especially if you're still 19, say.
And your most recent book is Prisoner, isn't it? Which is fiction, isn't it? But based on your experiences.
Yeah, basically when I started, I was, because I'm a fairly large individual, and I'm older and fairly mature, they just stuck me in the male side. So Peterborough Prison's got 2 sides. It's got nearly 1,000 men on one side and about 300 women on the other side. So obviously they're kept separate. And generally you work one side, because even though you think they're the same, both sides are very different. And so I was generally with all the guys, and you kind of get used to it. Things like grudges, they all tend to blow up quite quickly, and it's kind of smelly. And but it was a really hard job, generally because you were short-staffed a lot of the time. But then after 2 years, I said to them, look, my kids are young. I don't want to work weekends anymore, which they didn't want to do, obviously. And then I said, look, what I'll do is I'll do 3 12-hour shifts during the week, and when I come in, you can put me wherever you like. So you don't have to put me on a wing. So if anyone rings in sick, wherever that be, I'll go and do it. And they're like, oh, fab. So I then went all over the prison. So I was in, in the block, rolling around with people. I was in healthcare with people who have some generally mental health issues as opposed to physical issues. But I get the odd one who's dying in there. And then I was on the female side with the female inmates, some of the YOs, like young offenders. And the difference between 2 sides was absolutely crazy. And, and to start with, I was like, wow, it's, as Dalton in the book does. He's like, it's so easy. And you get the same money. And there's only usually around 30 female prisoners on a wing. And there's like 80 on the male side. And there's often only 2 officers. And, but then as you carry on getting used to some of the women, there's a lot of them have been through, some fairly horrific experiences. Some of it when they're young, some of it's self-inflicted, but the line is really blurred there. And also the women don't tend to, some of the men are idiots, and they're aggressive, they're violent, and and you don't accidentally go and rob a bank, you don't accidentally import cocaine, and all the rest of it. So they are criminals, and they have chose that lifestyle. Whereas quite a lot of the women were, the ones who were doing some serious time had often killed their partners. But they say that men kill their wives after abusing them for years, whereas the women kill their husbands after they've been abused for years. So obviously you don't want to be going around killing people, but it is a different concept, and and that sort of thing. So I used to feel a little bit more sympathy. So that was the motivation, just a guy going from one side to the other. And so I wanted to make it fairly informative, but also hopefully quite exciting as well.
Which you do. It's brilliant. I loved it. It was one of those I couldn't put down. I needed to know what happened.
It's the Barton books with trying to keep it with small chapters and keep it pacey. So you see, you look and you think, but it's like 1 o'clock, and you see how many pages are in the next chapter. Kind of sneaky, and you're like, it's only 2, and then before you know it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. So that was how I planned to do it.
This is why I start reading in the morning. I never start reading at night.
Oh, is that the connection going again?
Yeah, it's a dodgy. What made you finally take the plunge and decide to write about your experiences?
I think part of it was I had the book there, and we were just talking about one of my friends had a bad diagnosis, and someone else back then had a friend of a friend had a stroke, same age as me, and then someone else I knew passed. I mean, they were quite old, but I was just like, it felt like if you want to do it, you really wanted to do it. And I was chatting to some guy at work, and he just said, I said, I've written 50 pages of a book. And he was like, I wrote about 20 of a science fiction novel. So I actually went home. I hadn't looked at it for 5 years. I got it out and I read it, and I was like, that's not too bad, actually. I mean, it was a little bit crap, but it wasn't too bad. And so I thought, I sat down it was a Sunday afternoon, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to finish it. And then I wrote about another 10 pages. And then when I woke up the next morning, I was like, yeah, I am going to finish it. And I thought, I don't care if it's crap or the rest of it. And then that was it. I finished the book. Had some reasonably good feedback. The first person I submitted it to was Andrew Lowney, literary agent. And he got back within about a week and said, I really like the 15, whatever it is, pages I sent him. Could I send him the rest? And I'd read all this stuff about these people struggling to get published. And I was like, oh my God, what's we're going about? It's easy. And or maybe I'm just great. So anyway, I was drunk for a week. And a week later, I got an email from him saying, thanks, but no thanks. And I was like, oh no. So, and then the next 25 all blew me out. So then I just self-published it. I ended up writing a second book about another aspect of prison life, which is The Boy Inside. I had a bit more interest with that, a few offers, mostly small publishers. I ended up going with Bloodhound Books. Kind of did okay, didn't do too much. How I Met Malcolm and so did other guys on there. And then I was a little bit stubborn about the third, they republished Lazy Blood. And I did the third book, and they were like, want to make big changes. And I didn't want to make big changes. So I self-published that. That ended up in the top 100 for about a month after a book bug, so it did quite well. And then I did a couple more, which kind of did okay, but I'd had this idea about a snow killer, about a slightly cheesy tagline, which was fear the north wind because no one will hear you scream. So it was like a takeoff of Aliens sort of thing. But I just had an idea for a twist with it that I thought would be really good. And I was trying to think of what sort of setting thing. And I thought, detective novel would work. And then I was like, but I read detective novels, but I find some of them a bit samey. It's a bit cliche about the alcoholic detective, or they've got these really sad backstories and things like that. So I thought I'd try and write something different. And so I just made Barton like well, a little bit like me. I based him on a senior officer I used to work with in the prison who was, bigger than me, he had real presence, and then I injected some of my humor into him, and that was it. And that was kind of like how Barton was born. And then I signed with Boldwood Books. I got an agent this time. Did some of the rounds, some of the bigger publishers, some of them were interested. And then Boldwood with his startup from Amanda. Amanda used to run, numerous big publishers. And so she's gone alone and taken some of this talent with her. And so I thought I'd give it a go. And, it's done quite well. I've just literally been writing Barton 5, just started doing that. So the 4th one's out in November. That's I've got to hand that in a couple of weeks, but it's basically done. And then Barton 5's out next July or something. So, and then that's me out of contract. So I might do another prison one. It depends how this prison one goes, sort of thing.
And when is that out?
Thursday.
Thursday. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
A lot of reviews have been good though. The advanced reviews. I think a lot of people have found it reading it. It's been real. So they keep after reminding themselves, because obviously I've worked in the prison for 4 years. It was quite easy to write the book. It only took me 6 weeks, and it usually takes me twice as long as that. But because I didn't have to imagine any settings, all I had to do was describe them. And even some of the people, I just would imagine some of the prisoners. Mostly I melded a couple together, sort of thing. But even the staff, I just took a couple of those, and so yes, it was I enjoyed doing them.
Sounds like you did. You got the bug now.
Yeah, it's a strangely addictive process. But if anyone's thinking about writing a book, you almost feel like warning them that it's a strangely emotional experience doing it. You go through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of doubting yourself. You feel quite good about it 1 minute and then think, what the hell am I doing? I always get the 20,000 word wobble where I get to 20,000 words and think, what the hell am I doing? No one wants to read this. And then you push through, sort of thing. But the more you write, the more you know when you get to that. Now I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep going. And then, but I don't particularly like editing. Some people love it. I don't mind the first edit because that's like you kind of repairing the damage you've done, sort of thing. But after about 5 times, I just don't even want to think about the book anymore. Never mind read it.
What authors have inspired you?
First one was Orson Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game. If you've read it or seen the film with Harrison Ford, there's like a killer twist at the end. And I remember reading it and going, oh my God, it was the first time, because I was probably quite young. I used to like science fiction, and I used to read a lot. So probably about 12, 13. And it was the first time there was that, oh my God, I just did not see that coming. And so I still kind of think about that, but that's why when I start writing a book now, I try and think of the twist at the end. You've got to have at least one twist, I think, to make people go. But often the best twists come as you're writing the book. That's, I think, the hardest part for any author is when you write the book, you've got to hold the whole thing in your head. So you kind of got to know where you come from. You've got to know the characters. You've got to understand them, and you've got to wait until and you've got to know what's going to happen at the end. And if you lose sight of that, if your dog there, oh, he's a big boy, isn't he?
Did he? Oh.
And if you lose sight of that, it makes it quite tricky.
If you were a character in your series, would you get on with your main characters?
Yeah, well, Barton, yeah. But the police team are all generally very professional. I think that's another thing I try to make it out. A lot of the books, well, not a lot, some of the detective books out there, you've got people doing ridiculous stuff and very non-professional stuff. And then perhaps you might have got away with that in 1975, but I don't know whether you get away with it now. I have I think Pace, I think it was, in the mid-80s came in, and that changed professionalism. You just can't get away with stuff. There's cameras everywhere. Everything's digital now. If you stink in a drink, you're going to get a hand on your shoulder and all the rest of it. But, that's some of those things are the most interesting aspects of it. So, but it makes it writing it tricky. You've got to, if you've got an alcoholic detective, for example, you've got to make it so it's not as obvious. Otherwise, it's implausible, and then people aren't going to bother reading it anymore. There's some good authors out there at the moment that, especially with some of the detective novels, like Simon McLeod's doing well, J.D. Kirk, knocking it out, and obviously people like M.W. Craven as well. L.J. Ross have been doing it for years. But there's thousands of those books out there. A lot of people are trying to do it. But it's not as easy as you think. And then obviously once you've done the first one, which you tend to be like rah, it's quite hard to maintain it as well. And I can't write as fast as some of those guys either, the children. I can bang out maybe, I can do 2 a year, that's it. And that's a bit of effort. Obviously I'd like to do more. Like Mel Comley gets through about 8 a year, I think.
Yeah,
He's worked very hard.
Yeah, but Mike Craven only does 1 a year, so you're better than him.
Yes, so I don't know what he's doing with the rest of his time, is he?
I know. Probably spending all his money thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, that I guess the main character in his is there's nothing too dodgy about him. He's a little bit out of the off the scale, but nothing too bad. But it's the comparison with him and Tilly that makes that book, isn't it? So she's really a character you can kind of get on with, and so and he doesn't actually do anything massively dramatic with her. It's just writes her very well, and she's very plausible despite her differences, so we say. But it makes it you're very invested in the character. So once you finish one, you'd be like, oh yeah, I want to carry on, find out what's happening. So I hadn't read that before I wrote mine. But that sort of thing was something I tried to create, and then I made a bit of a mare with the first one, and I wrote the book, and so I didn't write anyone's date of birth down, any character things or anything like that. So when I came to write the second one, I was like, so I kind of half blagged it, and then when one of the editors got hold of it, I've messed up people's dates. People were getting younger one minute and older the rest, and it was an absolute nightmare to edit. So so if you're watching, make sure you have a little book with everyone's characteristics, relationships, and all that sort of thing. Otherwise, it will come back and get you.
What's the most interesting thing you found out when researching your books?
It's quite thing was I read quite a few detective books. If you the big thing is trying to make a book plausible. If people are reading it and then you've got something wrong, the level you research. I mean, there's quite a few crazy people out there who are looking or reading books and are looking for reasons to give it a bad review almost, I guess. But so you've got to be quite careful with your research. And I had a character in one of my books that got buried in a compost heap, and I had to do loads of research about the stages of death and how long it was going to take, and anaerobic decomposition compared to aerobic. So I was like getting snakes going through it to put some air into the compost heap and all the rest of it. And eventually I worked out that that my timelines fit if I kind of had it disturbed and all that sort of thing. But you're still going to get a review where someone goes and says, "Oh, that's ridiculous," and I get loads. So I have a very anal retired detective who reads my books, and he always says at the end after the first draft, "Yeah, I really enjoyed that if you'd set it in 1973. So he's like, so here's what you can't do. So we have to go back and, the high speed chases. No, nobody does those anymore. Massively dangerous. If the police will pull away. So if someone's pulled onto a motorway, you don't chase them because, or if someone's there with a gun, you don't go rushing in and chasing them, get everyone involved and stuff. You just stop and back away and call, the police with a bigger gun, and they come and sort it out, sort of thing. So, and then obviously the police have got to play by the rules, because if it gets to in front of a judge and they've done something wrong, the judge will throw the case out, and people have been told to come off and stop working on a case, and then go sneaking around the back door and investigating it anyway. They potentially could blow the case, and so I basically have to go back and I changed them all, and it's a bit annoying. It takes out quite a bit of the excitement sometimes, but that's what makes it plausible. But I still get loads of reviews going, "Oh my God, Barton is useless. What is he doing?" sort of thing. And you know, but that's, you can't please everyone. If someone, again, if you put like the personal relation stuff in, people will read the book and say, yeah, I really enjoyed the detective book, but you know, all this like a couple of sergeants in mine have like skirted around each other dating wise, and then people are like, you know, what the hell is he going on about that for? I want to just go back to the, you know, the detecting. But that's it. So it's very hard. That's where you see someone with a 4.6 for a crime book or something like that. It's very impressive. It just shows that they're they're ticking a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
Do you still get much chance to read?
Yeah, I'm a big reading junkie anyway. I've just been is it Fair Warning, the last Michael Connolly thing. So I've just started that. I don't think his latest stuff is quite as good as the early stuff, but he's such like a natural storyteller. It's almost like he's like what writing the book while he's watching TV sort of thing. It comes very easy to him, like Stephen King. But I read loads of stuff. I like a big variety, so it's not very sexy, but I like to go and look at the Kindle top 100. 99p. You can often get cracking books. Still waiting for that Shuggy Bane to come down in price, and I'll be having a go at that. Amazon Prime reads, I always give those a go. But I don't particularly like the Kindle for reading experience, apart from in bed at night sort of thing. But for being able to try books for like 99p or £2, it's great. And then you can just give it a go. If you don't like it, you can bin it.
Have any books made you cry?
Weirdly, since I don't know, I've just become old and soft. But I have basically, maybe it's since having children, I don't like books now where kids go missing or kids get abused. And that's purely been ever since I've had my own children. I'm not sure I want that in my head sort of thing. But yeah, there's loads of books. That's good writing. A lot of those books aren't at the top of the Kindle rankings for nothing. How many books come out now a year? 500,000, is it? So like 500,000 new books published every year. If you're getting into that top 20, top 50 space, there's usually something about it. Actually, I read Louise Beach's This Is How We Are Human. It was a advanced copy from the book club reviewers thing. And that made me cry. That's my boy now saying he's hungry. Go and help yourself. I'm always hungry. So we had 10 minutes. So I'll be back in another 10 minutes. Louise Beach's was very brave for her to take on that topic. So kudos to her. And obviously books like The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Weirdly, Lucy Foley's books I've been reading a bit of as well. The Hunting Party and the Guest List was it the other one? And you're struggling to find a nice character in either of the books, but they're very readable. And so that's what you want, isn't it? You want a book that you put down, and then you want to be looking forward to picking it back up again. So I try and do that with your books. It's hit and miss when you do it all the time.
Apart from your family and working and writing, what do you like to do?
Quite into horse racing. I prefer jump racing, Grand National. I went skydiving once in Australia, 15,000 feet. But I got more of a buzz out of the 2002 Grand National when I got home, even though my horse came second, than that. So we've got hunting and races down the road, do a bit of that. I quite like gambling generally. I'm trying to think, well, we spend a lot of time with the kids. The other one's hungry now, but help yourself, Baba. I don't have a lot of time. I am the sandwich generation. So my parents are around 80 now and wobbling a bit, and the kids are 10 and 7. So they're quite unindependent. We've got a dog as well, massive Labrador, who's supposed to be a dog that would fit in the foot well, but he's about 38 kilograms. And we used to have 2 Bernese mountain dogs, So one of those was like nearly 60 kilograms, which is pretty big. But with the money I made from the Snow Killer, which did really well, we used to have a ropey, very ropey garage conversion down the bottom. So we've now had that done out into a nice writing thing. But my wife's now put a bed in one of the rooms down there, and she's like, "Oh, we could Airbnb it." So as you can see, I'm actually on the kitchen table again, despite the fact it's finished now.
You've been, you're not even allowed your own space. It's disgraceful.
No, I mean, look, like I say, my office is behind me. I'm not even allowed in there. So my boy's been in there playing Roblox, and he's gone from 6 months to not playing anything like that, and he's just now totally addicted to it. The speed which he's worked out how to use everything now is quite scary. But if he's doing that and glued to that, that means I can write. So my daughter's the same. She's we got her a laptop for Christmas, so she's had a little bit invited, like Amazon Kindle. We're trying to resist with the mobile phones until they're at senior school, but she just sits and watches YouTube continuously. And but if someone had said to me when I was 10, here's YouTube, a glimpse into the entire world, I mean, I don't want to watch SpongeBob SquarePants either. So
yeah, indeed.
or play with dinosaurs.
Oh, those are the days though.
Yeah, it's all changed. I mean, I was at senior school. I was still playing with soldiers when I first started. I think that stopped fairly quickly, but yeah, it's certainly different times.
So do you say you're working on something at the moment, and then do you know what you're doing next?
Yeah, I'm just doing Barton, started Barton 5. I've like kind of planning it out. I've got to hand that in around about Christmas. So perhaps slightly ahead of the game, which is nice. I don't really like one of the other authors at Bulwich just signed a 12-book deal, which like she's over the moon with, because it's such a massive investment in her as an author going forward. That's Jessica, just in case she ever sees that. Congratulations. But I'm not even sure I'd like that. So I've got an agent, and and he's like, 4 books is quite a long time. So it takes me 2 months to 2 years. 6 months to write one. So if I signed for a 4-book deal, that'd be 2 years, and I can kind of feel the weight of it hanging over me. So, but obviously they want to try and pin you down so you don't do anything else. But I've had an idea for a book that's been bubbling around in my head for years, but I couldn't think of. I was trying to think of another character to go as like a foil to the character I had in my head. And I couldn't quite get my head around it, so I kept the Barton thing went better than I expected, and so I kept putting it to the back burner. But oddly enough, the builder, we had like one builder who did like everything, and basically he was here for like 4 months, so he did it like a one-man band. But it'd been like having a 16-stone toddler in the house, and he's so like non-PC and all the rest of it. So I'm going to use part of him for it. And there'll be a bit of prison in it, so I quite like that mentality of people struggling. But I've kind of got the twist already sorted, and again, I think I could write it quite quickly, which is nice. All I need to do is, the last one of them, I actually booked myself into the Holiday Inn for a week, and just wrote in there, and that was like a prison cell, but it was. I think I could definitely cope with prison as long as I had like books and writing.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell us.
No, I don't think so. No, it's nice. It crackled a bit near the end, didn't it?
Yeah, but it's all right. We got there.
Yeah, I see your. I didn't realise your thing. You got quite so many members there. I saw it yesterday, and so the key to it is recording now, are we?
No.
The